This public meeting is to present and receive public input regarding an amendment to the Township of Centre Wellington's Urban Centre Community Improvement CIP. The purpose of the proposed CIP amendment is to amend Section 3.4 of the Township CIP as needed to allow for full County of Wellington participation in a range of financial incentives. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the amendment is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Centre Wellington to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the adoption of the proposed amendment, you must make a written request to the clerk, Township of Centre Wellington, 1 McDonald Square, Elora, Ontario, and 0B1S0. Ask the clerk how notice was given.
Through you, notice was mailed to prescribed persons, agencies, and public bodies on May the 3rd. The notice was also advertised in the Wellington Advertiser on May the 2nd. I can therefore confirm the requirement for giving notice was completed on May the 3rd, 2019.
And we're going to have our Patricia Rudder, our Township Economic Development Officer, provide a little bit of background for this amendment first. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a few brief comments about CIPs and the amendment in particular. As you can see, community improvement plans are used by this municipality and many municipalities to encourage redevelopment, reuse, restoration, and use of what are otherwise lands and buildings that the community has deemed to have value and meeting local priorities and needs. The CIP is generally used to focus municipal attention on, or public attention on municipal priorities, and really to stimulate private sector investment through municipal incentive programs. Our CIP in the township was adopted by council in March of 2015. At that time, the County of Wellington was included as the need to be a participant in our CIP, but was not yet a participant. Under the Planning Act, only lower tier municipalities can adopt a CIP unless they're otherwise identified. The County of Wellington is not an identified upper tier municipality and thus must work through the lower tier municipalities to adopt its CIP. As I said, the township had encouraged the participation of the county in its CIP when it was adopted. Since that time, an amendment has been approved in the fall of 2016 that allowed for the county's participation in the tax increment equivalency grant that was given to Pearl Hospitality for the Elora Mill project. The current amendment allows for a more comprehensive participation by the county in providing financial incentives to the businesses in Centre Wellington. As you can see, they have several priorities: strategic use of land, provision of rental housing, improvements to buildings and infrastructure, diversification of the economy, and promotion of tourism. Theirs is a little bit different than ours, as it's not centered around particular incentives, but around meeting the priorities of the county. This amendment allows the township businesses to participate in the county's CIP and thus making them available for additional financial incentives. Right at the moment, they would not be available to businesses in the township unless we make this amendment. If you have specific questions about the town or the county's CIP, Yana Burns is the Director of Economic Development for the county, is here to is able to provide any comments or answers that you may have about the county's amendment.
Thank you, Pat. Yana, are you going to speak to this, or you're just here to answer questions? Yeah, I would like you to. Yeah, come on up. Firstly, I just want to say that the county worked really hard to work in partnership with the member municipalities to create their community improvement program in a way that recognized that all 7 municipalities were at different stages when it comes to their community improvement plan. So they wanted to make sure that they were flexible and they work with every municipality to make it so that the applicant only had one process to go through. So it was really, really good process, and Yan and her team worked really hard on this. So I'm happy that we can move ahead with a town and a county CIP that work kind of in partnership with each other. So I'll turn it over to Yana. She's the Director of Economic Development for the County of Wellington.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Your Worship. Good
welcome.
evening, Council. As was mentioned, the county completed its CIP, a Community Improvement Program, in last June, and it was a really thoughtful process. So we have goals and priorities and parameters within that that the municipalities were involved in, that the county council was involved with, and staff as well. So we're looking at everything from increasing the available rental stock in the county and our downtowns and the built-up urban areas. We're looking at redeveloping properties that might be hindered by costs related to environmental remediation work or traffic studies, for example. We are putting a lot of effort into revitalizing our downtowns, and there's top-up money in there as well. So the process, as the mayor mentioned, we have a very swift process. The township is still the first point of contact. We're providing all the support. And then we have 3 main programs. So we have Invest Well, Invest Ready, and Invest More. So we have pre-development and a design study grant up to $20,000. So that's up to 100% of the costs of any kind of technical studies that need to be done. We also have a tax incremental equivalency grant, also on a sliding scale for 5 years. And then we have 50% up to $10,000. It's a separate fund called the Invest More grant. So that's to offer support to the programs that you have available within your community improvement plan. So none of the programs that the county have are required to be matching. It's just that we want to see county council's endorsement of those to act as support for further funding from the county.
So you have to do this presentation to all 7 municipalities, right?
I've gone to most, yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from council, from either Pat or Yen on this one? Oh, actually, no, I have to do, we're in a public meeting here, not council. No delegations are registered. I just wanted to ask if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this item. Okay. And then I will ask if there's any questions from council, from either Pat or for Yana. Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Kelly. So the actual mechanism is really, I guess, my question. Because the county doesn't actually run the CIP; it's run through each individual organization, each township, I guess, and people apply through the township for the existing township grants or whatever they're applying for, and they apply separately for the county part of it, and then it's managed by the township, or how does the mechanism actually work?
Precisely. So through you, Your Worship, the township is the first point of contact. Our involvement is such that when we are providing the information to the township have everything available with that first meeting with the business owner or property owner to be able to vet their project against criteria and priorities that meet with the county grant program. So the funds flow from the county to the township, not directly, as you know, and then we're at the county level responsible for monitoring and further branding the program, marketing the program. But it's the township is the core contact. And to your point about process, having to fill out lots of applications, absolutely not. Just one application and then one checklist whether you meet the objectives that the county's trying to achieve on a county-wide scale.
Follow on, Councillor McElwain?
Thank you. So because the township program and the county program have slightly different objectives and slightly different, what's available is slightly different. And so if a person applies through the township and meets all of the township CIP objectives, do they automatically then be able to get the county piece of it as well? Because it's different. And in particular, I'm thinking that the tax incentive piece of it, there's differences there and how it's paid and over what period. And so there are two pieces that are being operated as one, and I just not sure exactly how it's going to work.
Through you, Your Mayor, that's the beauty of this county additional grant program that we have, because all of the municipalities are so different. So while Mapleton is very agricultural as a community, and they're caring about retrofitting barns and grants for solar panels for roofs, for example, their CIP enables that because they've included agricultural properties. Post Lynch, Guelph, and Massa, everybody has different priorities, but we at the county level have deemed certain things really important, and each of the municipalities have checked off which are important in their community, and then we've made that work so that they can apply for further funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor McRae?
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. This question is for Pat. Pat, just looking at the location for the proposed amendment where it's going to apply, it says the Urban Centre Community Improvement Project area.
Yeah.
One of the things that the county is saying that they're supporting is rental housing. So I'm wondering, should we be defining this as just the Urban Centre Community Improvement Project area, or should it be within the entire urban area of Centre Wellington? Because I'm thinking if we're trying to promote more rental housing, would the SIP grants be able to, would they be available to, say, developers who want to put up an apartment complex?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The, right at the moment, the county grants, additional county grants, would only apply where the township CIP applies. So right at the moment, it only applies to the areas that are defined within the CIP itself, which are within the urban area, but they are the central business district, highway commercial areas, industrial areas, and the commercial transition areas. So in the future, we're hoping to do a more comprehensive review and additional amendments to the CIP, but that is going to go through a process of consultation and further review by the Economic Development Committee. So I think you'll see us back here sometime in the next 6 to 10 months with a more comprehensive review of our CIP.
Yeah, just to clarify, the amendment here that we see is just to allow for the county to participate in our CIP. So really, there's no changes to our program at this point, and that's what Pat's saying might come later on downstream. We decided to amend ours to account for the county's entry into this. Any other questions from council? Councilor Kitchers?
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question of Deanna. This program also has a loan part to it. How does that loan work with these granting programs?
And you just hit we're pretty sophisticated here at the town. Deanna, you actually have to press the button there.
It is sophisticated. I apologize. Thank you, Councillor. It's a really great mention, because I forgot to actually note it in my intro. So it's not often that counties have community improvement programs. Norfolk has one and Niagara has one, but we even, aside from just creating a county one, also went above and beyond and created this cash flow booster, as we're calling it. So we have 2 community futures in our community, Wellington Waterloo and Saugeen up in the north, and they provide funding for small businesses, typically the ones that don't get commercial funding from banks. And we partnered with them because they said they have an economic development mandate, and they'd also like to support the activities and the priorities that the county is involved in. So what we've talked to them about is that a lot of our businesses would love to participate in getting a community improvement plan grant, but they don't have the startup capital or 50% available to provide that matching component. So this additional cash flow booster is a very low interest loan, 3%, that the municipalities, businesses, property owners can get hold of to essentially have that startup money.
Councillor Kiss, just following?
When an applicant, are they eligible for all the grants, like when they apply, like for their different categories, or they just can do the design study part, or the tax part, or invest part? Like, is it separate each one, or can they apply for all of those?
So the first two, if you had a property that needed remediation work or some kind of other kind of technical study, you would be eligible for up to the 20,000 in the first grant. And then if you were at the building stage, you would be eligible for the tax incremental equivalency grant. The only one that would be precluded would be the top up, so up to 10,000.
Councillor Kittredge, yeah, follow.
For the tax increment equivalency grant, is there a square footage that's required to be eligible for that?
There is not.
Oh, okay.
Anything else from council? Okay, so thank everyone for attending. Thanks, Yana, for coming here. Thanks, Pat. And I advise that council will be considering the amendment at a meeting immediately following this public meeting. So I declare this public meeting closed. And we're able to go right into our regular council meeting. So welcome to those who have just slipped in. This is our regular council meeting. Pretty good for time, 10 to 7, but we're okay to start now. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest with any of the items on the agenda for our council meeting today? Okay, seeing none. We did have a closed meeting, and I have nothing to report out of that closed meeting. I'm going to, do we do the presentation? No. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm gonna propose that we move up item 8.1 to approve the agenda, so that we can then, in turn, move up 12.1 and have the discussion about the CIP right now while Yana's here, and while our minds are fresh on that. Is everybody okay with that amendment? Okay. So can I have a mover to approve the agenda? Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor Foster. All in favor? And that is carried. So we'll move on to 12.1. Oh, I guess I don't need that anymore. Thanks. And so this is an amendment to approve the Centre Wellington Community Improvement Plan. And Pat, do you want to speak more to this, or did you kind of do that already? So there is a report there. Pat is here to answer any questions, but basically what we're doing is we're allowing our community plan to include the county's plan as part of our process. Any questions from council on that one? Okay, can I have I'll read the recommendation of the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington. Adopt amendment number 2 to the approved Centre Wellington Urban Centre Community Improvement Plan. That is really hard to say. We have to work on that. Move for that recommendation. Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Pat. Thank you very much, Anna. And now we will go back and Councillor Steve O'Neill isn't quite here yet. So we will do, I wasn't going to do the mayor's county report because I didn't know what he was going to talk about. Let's do minutes, and we'll go back to presentations and announcements after that. Confirmation of the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes there from March 25th council meeting and from April 29th council meeting. A recommendation that the minutes of the council meetings held March 25th, 2019 and April 29th, 2019 be adopted as circulated. Move for that recommendation. Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? And those carry. Okay, next we have a report from Committee of the Whole, May 13th, and then another one, May 21st. And I have a recommendation here that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approve the reports from the Committee of the Whole dated May 13th and 21st, 2019 as circulated. Have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Dunsmore, seconded by Councillor Van Leeuwen. Any discussion? 13th and 21st, yeah. Yeah, Councillor Kittrus?
I have a question about item 2, and I'm wondering whether,
Steve, which one?
to May 21st.
Okay, May 21st. Item 2, May 21st. Okay.
And I thought, and maybe I could be corrected, but I thought that the second part of that was about signage, and it doesn't say signage. That it was a 15-minute loading zones on selected street and park it lot signage. I thought that was what we were supposed to, and it doesn't say that, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. I think we wanted these signs, that's what we wanted.
Yeah, I think
And I don't think that's.
that
in
would
there.
be, well, 3, I think, yeah, that it is part of it. 3-hour parking limit, 50 minutes, which includes the signs associated. I think everybody knows it. Yeah, everybody's good with that. There's no other way to delineate
Okay,
that they're
okay.
different.
Okay,
So I think that includes the,
Okay.
Councillor
okay.
Kittrus.
Just asking about that.
Councillor McWing?
Thanks, Kelly. I had a question on the same topic. It's referred to as 15-minute loading zones, and that's somewhat misleading, I believe. And if that's what it says on the signs, I think it is not meeting the criteria that the VIA asks for, which is more of a short-term parking while you run into the store, which is not a loading zone.
So
It
really,
would be multi-purpose for dropping off as well as pickup.
but I think the challenge that he has, if the signs actually say loading
Yeah.
zone, we have a
Yeah,
we have
we'll
a
take a look
problem.
at that as part of the implementation,
So-
proper wording.
Thank you.
Wording could be 50 minutes customer, something. We'll look at the wording. Okay, no, that's a good point. Anything else? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Kelly. Item numbers 4 and 5 and May 13th, we were expecting a report. I realize the circumstances are preventing it due to the passing of Rob's father, but are we able to vote on this with a report pending?
Yeah, I think if I look at this, number 5 talks about receive his information, the details of the rural roads improvement, including maintenance gravel. And then 4, bring forward the data report, and that is going to be done at which meeting is that? The next meeting. That will be brought to the next meeting. So there was no decision to council besides receiving it for information. Councillor Foster?
Well, I remain concerned about those 2 items. There were errors in the report. There were errors in the information we were given and which we voted on. So are we able to defer items 4 and 5?
Well, first we'd have to pull them out, and so we'd have to pull them out, and then you'd have to move to defer them. So if you want to pull items 4 and 5 out on May 13, we can. Would you like me to pull them out? So you're requesting that they be pulled out, 4 and 5, and voted on separately? Okay, so why don't we handle everything besides 4 and 5 from May 13th first? Can we do that? Okay. So then I'm going to reread the oh, I did that already. I'll reread the recommendation that I have a motion on the table.
Yeah, you do. So why don't you just, a motion to defer 4 and 5 from the committee report, and then you can get a seconder for a motion to
Okay.
defer.
Okay, so I'll ask for, so we have a motion in front of us. Can I have a motion to defer items 4 and 5 on the May 13th Committee of the Whole? So moved. Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Kittrus. Any discussion on, do you have discussion on deferral?
There is no report coming forward if they defer that.
There's no, yeah, there's a,
Yeah, if you defer a request for a report, it just means you told them, don't, we just stopped the process. They're not making a report.
we're asking for a report,
If you want the report, we need to leave it in.
that a report be generated.
Yeah, the report next week is with regarding to the numbers, not a long-term gravel maintenance.
So if you want to pull out five, but you can't pull out number 4, or staff just don't have any work to do, because you don't want them to make the report.
We're talking about two different reports.
I'm gonna let Andy respond to that.
So, number 4 is the report that we're bringing new information regarding. Item 5 is the longer-term report that we talked about that we would bring forward. Additional information would be part of the 2020 budget process discussions.
So item 4 is what's coming next week. Item 5 is what's coming during the budget.
Right? Sorry, 4 and 5, yeah. 4 is long-term and 5 is what we brought that we're bringing additional corrected information for. Yeah. We're just clarifying for 4. So 4 is work that we're continuing to do and will be part of the budget. And number 5, we will be bringing corrected information for the June 3rd meeting. So number 4 is not part of what we're bringing forward on Monday.
So I guess my question to those who want to defer it, what's the purpose of deferring it? Councillor Foster?
The purpose of deferring it is the report that we voted on at this meeting contained errors in it. It's not possible to do what the report says based on the tonnages of gravel, the area that we're going to do. I'm concerned about gravel roads in our township, and errors were made in these proceedings, which were never really addressed.
So again, I'm just repeating, that's coming next week, so you want to defer 5, you want to defer 5 till next week? Is that like that, there's no connection between 4 and what you just said?
They both deal with gravel roads. They do connect.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a mover and a seconder to defer 4 and 5. All in favor of deferral? In favor not to defer? Okay. So that's defeated. So now we'll go back. So did we pull that out or did we not? We kind of did, didn't we? Okay, so
So you have a motion on the floor to adopt it in its entirety.
okay. So we have a motion on the floor to adopt Committee of the Whole Report 13 and Committee of the Whole Report from May 21st as circulated. And we have a mover and seconder already. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. Yeah, I know. We have no delegations. Oh, wait. We're going to flip back again. Okay, we have presentations and announcements, and it's my pleasure to have Councillor Steve O'Neill here for his first time to give us his county council update. And I think Councillor O'Neill, you did the same thing at Wellington North. They're copying us, aren't they? No, you went first with them, but they copied our process. Let's make sure that we give credit where it's due.
Sure, okay.
Councillor Steve O'Neill, Ward 4.
Sorry, I'm late. I believe, I was under the impression the meeting started at 7. And you're running early. I guess that's different than most of the county meetings seem to run late. I don't know who we blame for that. Anyways, good evening. My name's Steve O'Neill. I'm the county representative for Ward 4, which is the eastern part of, I guess, the northeastern side of Centre Wellington, runs up north of Kenilworth, so a fairly large area. Fair bit of swamp in some of the portions of it as well. Thanks for having me tonight. I'll try not to take up any more time of your meeting. I sit on economic development and solid waste at the county. Attainable housing is a county-wide issue, and it's a topic discussed quite often at economic development, and was also discussed extensively at the Wellington County Municipal Economic Development Group meeting on May 7th that was held in Elora. And at that meeting, Peter Weston from Weston Consulting, he led a discussion strategy for nearly 2 hours. And his company has been hired by the county to work on a county-wide housing strategy. And we're starting a project, a housing pilot project with Wellington North and the county, and along with Weston's help, hopefully we can find some solutions to housing issues, and that can be rolled out county-wide. It is a county-wide problem. People who want to work in the area have a hard time finding rental housing, and that leaves our local employers having a hard time filling jobs at times. So that's one thing on economic development's front page now. Taste Real Wellington, it's a county-wide initiative. Most of you are probably aware of portions of it. It's with a number of local farms and businesses participating, and it's because we're a rural county, agribusiness is a large driver of our economic development. And something new is RideWell. And it's a rural ride-sharing app based kind of like Uber, if anybody knows what that is. And it's to be up and running in October of this year. And it's going to allow residents to book rides throughout the county to travel wherever they need to in the county, as long as they don't go into the city of Guelph. That's an issue with transit. Number of local employers are quite interested in this, and again, it's because they can't get their employees to work sometimes. And so there's going to be a secondary level on that app that will come out later, and it would allow employers and employees to be able to get rides, the employee to get a ride to their work, and probably the employer will be paying a portion of that. And more info on this we'll be getting as we get closer to the launch date in October. Smart Cities Challenge, perhaps Mayor Linton's already talked to you about that. I don't know if he has, since I wasn't here for the start of the meeting, but if he hasn't yet, I'm sure he will give you an update on that. Smart City with the County of Wellington and the City of Guelph project was a winner of $10 million. Solid waste. Probably you guys get complaints about that, and it's not your problem. But that's not the point, right? Anyways, there's going to be a new contract in place in July of 2020. So it's gone out for proposal a couple weeks ago, and we're asking for the status quo. We're also asking for the second option will be expanding rural pickup to weekly pickup, and that would match the urban areas of the county. And number 3 is to add our organic waste pickup to the contract. And again, that would be county-wide, and rural and urban would be getting the same service as that. And obviously, as prices come in for that, decisions will be made. And the proposals are supposed to be in sometime here in the month of June. I don't know the exact date, but sometime in June they'll be here, so we can start discussing what those options at the county, so we're ready for July of 2020. Another thing with solid waste is the mobile hazardous waste depot. I don't know if any of you have used it, but it's going to be back in Bellwood for the month of August, and it'll be in Elora in November. And it has been a great success for the county. And last year, usage was up probably close to 20%. So people are using it, and it keeps the bad things out of the landfill. And something that's going to happen, and a new opening, is the Wellington Place Childcare and Learning Center in Aboyne. It's going to have its grand opening on August 29th, and the children will be attending there in September. And there's space there for 64 children, and unfortunately there's already a waiting list. So this is a project that, something we should be looking at further to to see if we can't get provincial money again like they did last time to get this project on the go. It was over $3 million, and a lot of that came from the province. Those days might be done for a little while, but we got the money when we could, and you know, it's obviously a well-needed option for the people of Centre Wellington and the whole county. And that's my update. If there's any questions, I'll try and answer them. If you got really tough ones, I'll ask the mayor to answer them.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Neill. Really good update. Questions from Council? Councillor McRae?
Thank you, Mayor Linton. One question I have, hazardous waste. Are there
Yes.
any plans to increase the number of visits to the various local areas like Elora and Bellwood?
Well, the schedule is booked the whole year as it goes to all the transfer stations throughout the county. So Bellwood and Elora had dates earlier in the spring, so they do get, each one is getting 2 a year.
I guess I'm just, I've had some constituents just comment would be nice to have them more frequently. So I was just wondering if, do you monitor to see how much usage there is to decide when a particular hazardous waste deserves having more frequent pickups at these transfer sites, like electronic goods, for example, which you now have at the
Yeah.
Elora waste transfer?
Yeah. I can't see the large bin that they take around being done more than a couple times a year at any particular spot, just because there's 7 transfer stations, and if everybody goes twice, we're past the month, unless they start splitting months up. I don't know if that's,
Councillor Dunsmore?
I get a lot of questions on garbage. And I have some people who would like to know when you're going to institute a composting program, a green box, so to speak.
well, that's gonna be in the next, that's option number 3 here. And I guess it will depend on the pricing of it if we can, feel we can afford to do it. But yeah, people ask about that all the time. That is true.
Councillor McElwain?
Thanks, Kelly. You mentioned, Steve, that the Ride Well program doesn't take you into Guelph.
It does not.
That's going to be a bit of a challenge for people
Yes, it
wanting
does.
to travel
Yeah.
down there, isn't it? Is there plans for a stop-off station on the outskirts of Guelph or something of that nature?
Yeah, that's the plan, that you would be at the north end of Guelph where you could get a city transit bus. We cannot operate in the city because they already had their own transit. So they won't allow us. If you were going from, say, Fergus to Puslinch, the car would drive you right through, but they can't drop you off halfway through the city, theoretically.
It was a requirement when we put the proposal in to get $500,000. That was one of the stipulations. It had to be a county solution, so it takes you right to Guelph Transit. And it will, like Councillor O'Neill said, if you're going from Wellington County up in North Wellington, you're going straight through Guelph, you can get dropped off in Puslinch point to point. But if it's in Guelph, you're just going to a transit station for Guelph Transit. Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Kelly. Steve, just as a point of clarity, is that Guelph Central goal where you'd be dropped off? Or will it be the northern limits of the city?
I would expect you'll be dropped off at the Walmart at the north end. That's by the sounds of it, and I'm sure that's probably where it's gonna go if there's a bus stop there.
I would think, and discussions have been, we've talked about this a few times in Economic Development Committee at the county, and they're gonna get this pilot off and running. They're gonna identify what's working, where there's opportunities for improvement, and you're gonna see phase 2, and they're gonna identify rider needs, preferences, where things aren't as convenient as they should be, and you'll see something extending beyond that after they get this initial pilot going. But anything else for Councillor O'Neill? Councillor McRae?
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. Is there any plans to increase the cost per bag for dropping off garbage at the transfer stations?
The yellow bags, no. There was discussion at county to increase fees if you're dropping off a big green bag. The yellow bags will be, personally, I'd like to see people not drop off yellow bags because we as a county, we're paying for those to be picked up at the end of your laneway. And if you take them to the transfer station, for instance, in Elora or Bellwood, it's being handled twice. It's still going to Riverston. It's just being handled by county employees one extra time instead of just going with the contract that we're paying good money for. But, you know, changing people's minds won't happen, I don't think. But as far as yellow bags, no.
In terms of the dark green bags?
That's probably, every year that'll be looked at, I'm sure. Along with all the other user fees, I can see green bags being looked at and possibly going up. If not this year, or not in 2020, I'm sure they'll go up eventually.
As Councillor O'Neill talked about, the county is going out to tender for a few different options. Be interesting to see what the companies come back with. There might be some interesting, innovative ways based on how the companies respond to this RFP. So, but it is something I think a lot of us heard. The organic waste is something that we don't feel like we should be throwing out.
And the province may change our minds on organic waste and just say you can't. There's been talk that they're not going to allow you to put organic waste in landfill. Yeah. So you're not going to be, as a county, we won't be able to accept it that way. If somebody throws it in the yellow bag, we can't stop that, but they're going to possibly enforce that we have a green solution for that. And that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of people want that.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor O'Neill. Pleasure having you here. Okay, just a couple items from my county council report, and Councillor O'Neill talked a little bit about the Smart Cities Challenge prize, but it was so exciting I thought I'd mention a couple other things about it. So we heard on Tuesday, May the 14th, I was in Ottawa with our Wellington County team, and we heard that it was announced that Guelph and Wellington County received a $10 million prize from Infrastructure Canada to implement their Smart Cities vision of food future, Canada's first circular food economy. And when you think about that, some of the things that Councillor O'Neill was talking about, waste and that kind of stuff, that's going to fit into some of the projects that are going to be underway as part of this winning proposal. So this joint proposal, it was submitted in March. 9 months of planning involved more than 150 community partners. And so the program will have three main ambitious goals. The first, a 50% increase in access to affordable, nutritious food. The second thing is 50 new circular food businesses and collaboration opportunities, and 50% increase in economic revenues by reducing or transforming food waste. So we have a rich history at the County of Wellington, and this big win provides a good opportunity for us to partner with the City of Guelph and strengthen our urban-rural partnership and make sure that we're leveraging our competitive advantage when it comes to agri-food. So it is right in our wheelhouse. So I was extremely proud of our county team. Yana led the team, and they represented the county. When they were announced, we were one of the two winners in this category. So it's going to be a good partnership. A lot of work has to happen now that we won the money. There's a lot of projects that have to be kicked off, and one of the first things is we have to do is get a good project manager and a good project plan and start to make a difference and make sure that we're doing it in partnership with the different farmers and the businesses and the county. Another exciting announcement last week. So residents across Wellington County are one step closer to getting high-speed internet access. So that was after years of the county working through the Western Wardens Caucus, which represents 50 municipalities in southwest Ontario, through an ambitious project called the Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology, or SWIFT for short. And it's a not-for-profit corporation focused on improving connectivity throughout southwestern Ontario, Caledon, and the Niagara region. There's lots of stakeholders there, so years and years of planning. Last week, May 23rd, the Ontario Infrastructure Minister Monty McNaughton announced the government has committed to spend $63.7 million in Southwestern integrated fiber technology. So $63.7 million is going to SWIFT, and Wellington County is one of the 3 projects on their docket that is happening first. And so Wellington County itself got over $12 million to bring high-speed internet to Wellington County. So that is a huge news. It means that residents and businesses will be able to stream high-speed internet to their homes, farms, businesses, and it's kind of time for these smaller communities to have the same kind of internet access that some of the cities do. So this is great news. Keep you up to date on how those projects unfold, and hopefully we see stuff in the ground really quickly, and they can move fast on this money. We've always all been in that scenario where we get an announcement for money and it takes months and months and months. So hopefully things can move really quickly. And this was news that we've been waiting for a long time. So this is really exciting. It's awesome that Wellington County is one of the first counties that's going to receive these funds. So that's good. And hopefully we can get internet out there soon. Any questions on my report? Councillor McElwain.
Thanks, Kelly. Just on the SWIFT announcement, what exactly is SWIFT doing in Wellington County to provide high speed throughout the county to farms and rural areas and stuff? Is it expected to be fiber, in which case $12 million isn't going to go very far? So I'm just curious what plans they have. Do you?
Yeah, it is fiber. I don't know if it's completely fiber. I think they're open to innovative solutions, but the $12 million is just for the money that the government is putting into it. Also, there are industry leaders and businesses who are going to be brought in. Like, this is going to be a private-public partnership. So there is going to be more money that comes to the table. So technically, I'm not exactly sure, and I'll keep you up to date. We just heard about this last week, but the idea is for it to be mainly fiber. Yep. Councillor updates. Councillor Kittredge, any committees?
Safe Communities. We just had a meeting. There was a new development. I think it's Bill 107. Which is expanding the use of ATVs on roads, which means that it's one of those open for business initiatives by the province, which means people can drive ATVs down the highway. And so there was a lot of discussion at Safe Communities about that. And it means they can just drive to a gas station, fill up, and then go off. So there was a lot of things about that was concerning. There were contest winners for the video distracted driving, and that was announced, and that was on the radio locally. And that's about it from Safe Communities.
Thanks, Councillor Kittredge. Councillor Dunsmore?
Nothing to report. Both committees meet next week, so.
Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. GRCA has a new CAO effective July 15th, 2019. Samantha Lawson first joined the GRCA in 2005 and is currently the manager of property. The current CAO, Joe Farwell, will be available until September 30th to provide guidance for the new CAO and to assist the Director of Engineering with the GRCA's asset management plan. The City of Hamilton was not successful in its appeal against the GRCA's annual levy. It indicated that it does not intend to challenge the appeal. Therefore, the city will be paying their 2018 and 2019 levies that were respectively $271,563 and $1,389,640. This means there will be no adjustments required to other communities' levies to offset the potential loss of Hamilton's levy. The current CAO suggested municipalities wait another month to decide whether or not to continue to set funds aside in case levies had to be adjusted. Current watershed conditions indicate all reservoirs are in good position for water storage heading into the summer season. A cool spring resulted in less evaporation of the additional spring rainfall. This factor generated higher levels in the rivers that in turn are contributing to record high water levels in Lake Erie.
Thank you, Councillor McCray. Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Your Worship. Centre Wellington Hydro, AGM's coming up. It'll be presented to council, I believe it's June 24th, roughly about 3 to 4 weeks from now. And we'll be receiving their financial statements. Secondly, Seniors Committee, we meet next week. Very, very busy committee, very, very busy place. Lots of seniors activities, Blue Jay games, barbecues and such. Over 1,000 members participating in various senior activities.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. Councillor Van Leeuwen?
Thank you. We, on May 2nd, we had our economic development meeting, and it was a good meeting. Lots of new faces from the committee that see around this table. We've talked about, spoke about priority sites and how we're continuing to add to those priority sites, those being the ones we'd like to see developed in this municipality and underused. We've also spoken about our strategic plan, how we're going to work through it all, and I think we're just getting geared up with this new committee to see how it all comes together. So it was a good meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Van Leeuwen. Councillor McElwain?
Just want to congratulate the Elora BIA for their first late night Elora shopping last Saturday night. The weather cleared up and everything worked out really well, and the fiery hula hooper could perform, and the lady in stilts and everybody else. So it was a really good evening, and lots of activity throughout town.
Thanks, councillors. Moving on to, we have no delegations. Moving on to 12.2, right? Appointments to the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee, and we have a report from Brett Salmon, Managing Director of Planning and Development. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Council approved the terms of reference for the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee on January 21st, and that talks about appointing up to 5 citizens. So the Staff and Legislative Services published an ad seeking applicants, similar process to the appointment of all the other committees. We received applications up until March the 1st, and we received a number, more than enough to appoint the 5 individuals. So staff have reviewed the applications, and we're recommending that Kathy Baranski, Tony Ellis, Don Fisher, Maddie Smith, and Stephen Wright be appointed. And we believe that covers the diversity of backgrounds and qualifications and skills and interests that's needed in the terms of reference.
Okay. Questions from council? Comments from council? Councillor Kitchus?
I was wondering why the majority of these people are from Elora when the majority of the municipality is not in Elora. And I'm also wondering why one of the members here is on another committee when you had excess number of people.
Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
I can attempt.
Okay.
I guess I will say we have to be careful of questions that are asked and answers I give about personal information about people. To be honest, we looked at their people's experience and the interest that people brought to the table, and not where they lived, as much as so the geographic part of it wasn't a big factor in who we chose to appoint or not to appoint. And in terms of other people, we have volunteers on a variety of committees, and we don't have in our terms of reference anything that excludes anybody for having participated in any other committees. So we looked at the experience of the individuals and trying to get a broad sort of cross-section of interest. So.
We did ensure, as far as council representatives on this committee, that we did have one council representative from Fergus and one council representative from Aurora, because we felt like that was important, since members of council are the directly elected representatives of the community. So we did do that. Anything else from council? Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Kelly. Brett, can you give us, what was the total number of applicants that were filed, and were there any applicants from Fergus?
Well, there certainly were applicants from all over the township. Again, we didn't specifically look or ask in the terms of reference the geographical location of anyone's residence. So we did get, and I can't say off the top of my head how many were from where. I think we had maybe 10 or 12 applicants in total. It could be Nickel, West Gary, Aramasa. Didn't look specifically at where they resided to determine whether they should be or shouldn't be on the committee. We looked at their qualifications.
Councillor Foster, follow on?
Thank you, Kelly, for follow-up. Brett, can you give us a list of the names of applicants, if it's appropriate?
Can't. I'm being told no.
Councillor Kitchus?
Can we have a closed meeting so we can discuss this?
If you can get a mover in a second or to go into closed session, then we can go into closed session, clear the room.
For any reason at all?
That would be identifiable persons, I'm assuming. They want to know who the applicants were. That's the only way we're going to be able to disclose.
Is that appropriate? This should. Okay, so you're making a motion to move into closed session to discuss identifiable individuals.
Yeah, I mean.
That's all, we just need a
We
reason.
can't do it, so.
Yeah, no, we just need a reason to go into closed.
Yeah,
It's to
that's
discuss
discuss.
identifiable individuals. Move, seconder for that? Councillor Foster, all in favor of going into closed?
Just
Would
off
you?
the live stream, did that carry? I didn't see.
No, I'll
Yeah,
say
Karen.
it again. Closed, all in favor of closed? 4. Opposed, just for the fun of it? No, we'll go into closed, so we just have to wait. We got to get the live streaming shut down and go into closed session. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna, for the gallery, we're going to the basement for a closed meeting. carry anyway. Okay, so we just had a closed meeting. I have nothing to report out of our closed session. And we'll go back to 12.2, appointment for Healthy Growth Advisory Committee, and open it up. You had nothing to add there, did you, Brett?
No, I did not.
Okay, so comments, questions, whatever else from councillors. Councillor Kittrus?
I'd like to motion to to change the terms of reference to add another individual to the Healthy Growth Committee.
You want to say why or not?
I'd like to have another member from Fergus.
Okay, so that would be require a change to the terms of reference. So you're asking for equal representation between Fergus and Laura? Okay, but when we do a terms of reference, this is what was gonna be for this committee until we change the terms of reference. So next time around, that won't do the trick to make sure there's equal representation, adding one. So if the intent behind it is to have equal representation with Fergus and Laura, we should probably say it that way, so then the terms of reference is solid. You know what I mean? Because it does what you want it to do, but then for the next time we do this, it will have equal representation, if that's the principle you're looking for.
But this is for 4 years, so it's only for this term, and then we will have the terms of reference redone next term.
Okay, not typically, but yeah, fine.
So
It's your motion.
yeah, that's fine with
Seconder
me.
for that, adding one more person from Fergus to this. Okay. Seconded by Councillor Foster. Any discussion about this one? Councillor Foster?
Urban growth is a significant issue in Fergus. The residents are concerned about it, and there's a need for representation from Fergus, from people who understand what's going on there, people who understand how the community has changed, people who implicitly understand how what is happening there and the challenges the community is facing. And that's why I support this motion.
Anything else from council? Councillor Kitchess?
I'm concerned about the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee having enough representatives from Fergus, because basically 3/4 of the population is in Fergus, and that is where it's slotted to grow, double, mainly in there. So, and I feel that existentially living in Fergus with all the growth is an important perspective to bring to this committee.
Councillor Dunsmore?
So since we're going down the rabbit hole, you have members from the other committees that are going to be on this committee as well. So are we therefore saying that those members from the other committee that join this committee must be divided equally between Fergus and Elora? Or you're going to be outnumbered from Fergus again on the basis of those people?
Councillor Foster?
Councillor Dunsmore, no, that's not what's been said. What's been said is urban growth is an issue. What's been said is we'd like to add one more person who's from Fergus, who brings a Fergus perspective to this committee. That's it.
I think I want to clarify. I mean, I think what Councillor Dunsmore is saying, if the principle is that you're going to have equal representation from Ferguson and Laura on these 5 representatives, he's wondering if you want to extend that principle further and say all the other representatives have to be equal between Ferguson and Laura. Is that correct? That's the same principle.
That won't work because we only have 3 other advisory committees, so you're going to have 2 and 1 without, that's the way it works.
Councillor Dunsmore?
So do we know who the people from the other advisory committees are? They may already be from Fergus, in which case we're having a wasted conversation.
Well, it doesn't seem like the movers and seconders of this care about that. It's just more about the citizen advisory roles is what I'm hearing from this conversation. Personally, I want to say my opinion. I don't think we make distinctions between Fergus and Laura. Everything's Centre Wellington to me. So as long as they're from Centre Wellington, I think they have the community's best interest in heart. And I don't think we make that distinction in any of the other decisions that we make here at this council chamber. And I don't think that's the right path to go down. Councillor McCrae?
Thank you, Mayor Linton. I have some concerns. If we're relying on geographic location as opposed to expertise, what if we happen to have an individual, whether they're in Fergus or Elora, who happens to have the qualifications that we're looking for this group? Do we have to then push them aside because we have to follow the quota system? I mean, I grew up in this area, and I thought we buried the hatchet between Elora and Fergus a while ago. As far as I'm concerned, we're Centre Wellington. It doesn't matter if you're in Elora or if you're in Fergus. Your first priority is to this whole township. And if we're looking at what's happening in terms of our urban areas and where we're going to be growing, it doesn't matter if we're growing more in Fergus or growing more in Elora. The fact is we're all growing together, and we have to figure out how do we best satisfy everyone's needs.
Councillor Kitchus?
This is to respond to Councillor Ian McCrae's. All the applicants are qualified, we were told, and so it's not about that, what you're saying. If all the applicants are qualified on this committee, the same stipulate when you actually live in a location that is in the high growth area, that matters. That actually existentially matters to what you're experiencing. And in terms of other committees, I don't really care. It's just this committee that we're talking about. So whether they add more, so be it. Like, it's just the way it is. It's the luck of the draw of whoever was chosen from those. We're only discussing this committee. And that's all that is pertinent to this, adding another person.
I'm going to turn it over to you in a minute, Councillor, but I just want to remind Council that we approved this terms of reference in January of this year already. This would have been a perfect time to say that we do want half from Fergus and half from Elora, not now that we have the names. That would have probably been a little easier, but we are where we are. Councillor Van Leeuwen.
Thank you. I am a little bit concerned with this idea of starting to split it. We speak about living in this community or living in Fergus or living in Elora. I live in Centre Wellington, and I believe that the decisions that we make as councillors, we're voted in our ward system, but every decision we make is for Centre Wellington. So, and I live on the rural side, on the far outside of Fergus. But I still live in Centre Wellington, so I live in this community, and anyone, I actually would take offense that somebody would say, you don't live in Elora. I live in Centre Wellington, and this is my community, and I make decisions as a councillor for the community. And I'm going to assume that every single person that applies to these positions is based off of the fact that they want to do what's best for the community that they live in. And I think that we have to recognize their skill set only and recognize that they live within Centre Wellington, and therefore I'm not in favor of changing the terms of reference only for the purpose of adding a Fergus representative.
Councillor McCrae.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. I too am not in favor of changing the terms of reference, because what if someone's from the rural areas? Does that mean that they're excluded because they don't live in Elora or Fergus? They may still have the expertise that we're looking for to help us determine how best to grow. I mean, I don't want to get into a quota system of you got to have X number of people from Elora and X number of people from Fergus.
Anything else from Council? Okay, so we have a mover and seconder for adding a Fergus representative. I'll call the question. All in favor of adding a Fergus representative? Opposed? And that's defeated. Okay, so now we're going to have to go back to the original recommendation here. That the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington appoint the following individuals to the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee: Kathy Bransky, Tony Ellis, Donald Fisher, Maddie Smith, and Stephen Wright. Mover for that recommendation? Councillor McCray, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Okay, 12.3, appointments to the Groves Memorial Community Hospital Board of Directors, and this is a requirement under the Groves Act. And you have a report in front of you. I'm going to read the recommendation. That the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington confirm the appointment of the following members to the Groves Memorial Community Hospital Board of Directors: Helen Bogle, 3-year term; Gilles Mador, 3-year term; Richard Wright, 3-year term. Mover for that recommendation, Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor McElwain. Any discussion on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Appointments to the Property Standards Appeal Committee. Recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington appoint the following individuals to the Property Standards Appeal Committee: Kathy Bransky, Janice Shepard, Warren Ziegler, and that the terms of reference as attached to report COR 2019-42 dated May 27, 2019 be approved. A mover for that recommendation? Councillor Van Leeuwen, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. Any discussion on that one? All in favor? And that's carried. 12.5, a bylaw to set the 2019 tax rate. A report from our Managing Director of Corporate Services Treasurer, Dan Wilson. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. This is a report to set the tax rates for 2019. The Municipal Act requires local municipalities to set these bylaws annually to establish the tax rates for the year. There are two major requirements before setting rates. The first is that the township pass their annual budget, which we did back in February. And the second is the establishment of tax policy, which was set by Wellington County in April of this year. The bylaw also indicates installment due dates. So for the people listening in, residential tax due dates, the first installment is June 28th. 2019. The second is September 30th, 2019. And for commercial, industrial, multi-residential tax classes, the first installment is September 30th, 2019, and the second installment is November 29th, 2019.
Any questions from council? Councillor Kitchus?
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at the schedule, what is the rate for ordinary households? It doesn't have it. It has all the other ones, but not that.
Through Mayor Linton, if you look at the bottom of each schedule, it's called residential/farm, code RT.
Okay.
That is for a residential property.
Oh, okay. So that's, I thought it was just for the farm residential. Okay, thank you.
Anything else from council? Okay, move the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington adopt a bylaw to set the township tax rates for 2019. Mover for that recommendation, Councillor Van Leeuwen, seconded by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. 12.6, single source award, traffic signal operations, and a report from Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. The Infrastructure Services Department is looking to make improvements to the traffic signals in Centre Wellington and are looking to introduce the TrafficWare pod detection system. This is a wireless vehicle detection system that helps improve and coordinate traffic flow, and it activates traffic lights in doing that. From discussions with Infrastructure Services, repairs seem very straightforward, and it provides a higher level of accuracy on this detection system. It is also the system used by Wellington County. They've been using it for 3 years and are very pleased with the product. We are bringing this report forward to council today because we are recommending that we standardize the use of that system within the township. We have a lot of intersections that are shared with Wellington County and others, and it makes sense from a standardization and efficiency point of view to have the same system as the county. Our purchasing bylaw allows this to occur. Schedule E discusses a single source of a product or service due to standardization, where it will provide cooperative purchasing opportunities, such as this opportunity with the county itself. For 2019, Infrastructure Services is looking to install this system on 4 intersections, all located on the connecting links section in Fergus, Tower Street and Bridge Street, St. David Street and Bridge Street, St. Andrew Street and St. David Street, and St. David Street and Gordon Street. And the intention is to eventually have this system on all traffic lights in Centre Wellington. The bylaw, purchasing bylaw requires approval of from the Township Treasurer, Chief Administrative Officer, and Council in order to standardize this type of technology, which is the purpose of this report here today. With respect to the 4 intersections identified for 2019, I've attached Schedule A to the report to outline the financial impact. So the 4 signals combine for a total cost plus non-rebate HST of approximately $80,000. There's some funding for 2 of the intersections through the county where they provide 25% funding, which is just short of $11,000, leaving approximately $69,000 to be funded by the township. The first 3 intersections are part of a traffic signal timing synchronization project from the 2017 budget, and we're within budget allocations there. And the 4th signal is a project that was passed as part of the recent 2019 budget, which is the Gordon Street and St. David Street North intersection signalization that we have some remaining funding there, so we're within budget allocations as well there. So the recommendation is allowing us to standardize the use of that system, the traffic aware pod detection system, and that we're able to move forward with those 4 identified intersections in 2019.
Thanks, Dan. So we're under budget on all this. Remind us why you have to come to council with this again? Single source.
We're sole
Okay,
source,
even though it's under budget. Okay. Questions from council? Okay, read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington authorize the use of the traffic-aware POD detection system for traffic signal operations to eventually be installed on all traffic signals within the township, and that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington direct staff to install the traffic-aware POD detection system on 4 intersections in 2019 as identified in Report COR 2019-39 dated May 27, 2019. Move for that recommendation, Councillor Van Leeuwen, seconded by Councillor McCrae. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Dan. No information items. We have several bylaws there. And I read the recommendation that the bylaws 2019-25 through 2019-28 be read a first, second, third time and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed. Move for that recommendation. Yep.
Your worship, could we deal with 2019-27 separately, please?
Oh, 27, okay. Yeah, for sure. So I'll reread the recommendation. I'll do that one first. That bylaw 2019-27 be read a first, second, third time and passed and signed by the mayor and clerk and the corporate seal affixed. So just 27. Mover for that recommendation, Councillor Van Leeuwen, second by Councillor Dunsmore. All in favor? Opposed? And then bylaws, recommendation that bylaws 2019-25, 2000 through and 2019-26 and 2019-28 be read a first, second, third time passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and the corporate seal affixed. Move for that recommendation, Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor McElwain. Van Leeuwen. All in favor? You're sitting too close. And that's carried. Okay, we have a proposed motion, so Councillor McElwain can introduce a proposed motion regarding the Badley Bridge. So just a couple rules. No questions from staff. This is a council discussion. No comments from the audience, and we'll stick to having the discussion internally with members of council. So I'll give you the opportunity to introduce your motion, Councillor McElwain.
Thank you. I should introduce the motion first to get it on the floor before making comments. Is that the proper procedure?
Make your comments first and then move it.
You can make your comments
Okay,
first.
I
then
have,
move it.
the notice of motion has comments, but I just have more to follow it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just do that and start with. Whereas the Badley Bridge is the iconic gateway to Ontario's most beautiful village, and whereas the existing structure provides the heritage appeal and the small town look that our council has committed to preserving in Centre Wellington, and whereas in excess of 2,000 citizens of Centre Wellington have signed a petition to repair the existing structure or replace it with a structure more suitable as the gateway to Elora, and whereas the Elora VIA, representing the many small businesses in Elora whose success is dependent on attracting visitors to Elora, has also endorsed the petition. And whereas the rehabilitation estimates quoted in recent releases far exceed the 50-year life cycle cost estimate provided to Ministry of Environment and Climate Change in 2016, and whereas Wellington County has determined that Valley Bridge warrants designation and protection from demolition under the Ontario Heritage Act because it has been demonstrated to be of cultural heritage value or interest. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington request Wellington County to review their planned replacement of Badley Bridge and consider either repair or replacement with a structure more suitable to the small town feel and heritage surroundings of Ontario's most beautiful village.
A seconder for that motion? Councillor Kittrus. Discussion from members of council. Councillor Macklin.
I'd like to add some more if I could, please. The proposed County Road Standard Bridge replacement for the Valley Bridge has been an issue since the public information sessions in 2015 and 2016. Despite statements to the contrary, there was no real public consultation on the bridge style. There were presentations of the County Road Standard as the only option with some consultation on how many spans it would have. During these public sessions, there were lineups of residents protesting the proposal, obviously to no avail. A rehabilitation alternative was not presented, although there was a chart showing all the reason that it wasn't viable. Only after the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change forced the county to present a rehabilitation alternative was one prepared. It showed a 50-year life cycle cost of $6.87 million. Now, in the 2019 budget, the bridge replacement that was presented to the public in 2016 at approximately $4.5 million has escalated to $7.5 million, and the $6.87 million has escalated to $14.5 million. The public obviously has questions about where this $14.5 million magically came from. While the bridge that was saved in St. Mary's doesn't translate 100% to the Badley Bridge because it's a single lane and low load bridge, it does demonstrate that looking at reconstruction rehabilitation question with a fresh pair of eyes can produce alternative results. When Councillor McCrae returned from the OGRA conference this year, he sent us all a link to a presentation by Peter Kenyon, one of the keynote speakers at the conference. The topic of the presentation was asset-based community development, and his number 1 point out of 10 was a quote from Harold Fleming: "The wisdom of the community always exceeds the knowledge of the experts." The Badley Bridge decision makers certainly should consider this. Elora economy depends on attracting visitors. The vista when entering Elora, traveling down Metcalfe from the traffic circle, is a postcard view of a European-style small town displaying the heritage of Mill Street and Metcalfe with the Badley Bridge as the centerpiece. That vista, which has been captured on film and on canvas since the bridge was built in 1953, has attracted many visitors for the first time and has become the iconic gateway to Elora that brings visitors back time after time. It cannot be replaced with a cement slab county road standard. It makes no difference how much lipstick you put on that pig, it won't have the same impact on visitors as the current Badley Bridge. A petition recently circulated by concerned citizens and fully supported by the BIA has gathered more than 2,200 signatures asking the county to reconsider their decision. The citizens are not being irrational in demanding rehabilitation. If it truly is prohibitively expensive for rehab, then at least consider other alternatives to trying to fit a county road standard bridge into a very non-county road standard location. The bottom line is that we want a bridge that our great-grandchildren will fight to preserve in 75 years when it's time to do the next rehab or replacement. I'm not naive enough to think county are going to change their mind because of this motion, but I do think that it is imperative that the Council of Centre Wellington express our displeasure with this decision. So I'm asking the council direct staff to inform county that we do not support their proposed replacement, and we'd like them to investigate alternatives, including rehabilitation of the current bridge. After all, despite our small number of votes at County Council, the citizens of Centre Wellington should expect some considerations for contributing 40% of the tax contribution to the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McElwain. Other councillors? Councillor Van Leeuwen.
Thank you. So this is my question more to either Kirk or Kelly, I guess, is so, because if I see the now therefore be it resolved, it's a request to Wellington County to review the planned replacement. So we're asking them to review what they've presented. Where would we bring this to, and what's that step look like so that we know what we're actually asking, and so we actually have some clarity there.
I expect this is a question for Kelly. I mean, my take on it is that, as I said, we ask staff to let the county know our displeasure and hope the county will choose to bring it back for reconsideration.
So if passed, this recommendation would go to the County Roads Committee as an item on the agenda for the next Roads Committee, and then the Roads Committee would make would take action on it and discuss it, and based on the decision of the Roads Committee, that decision would go to County Council for final decision of County Council.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. Where's the bridge at right now in terms of its design? Is the design almost finished and getting ready to go out for tender?
Yes, the detail, the environmental requirements for the new bridge replacement have been done. Another public meeting is required in June, and then all conditions have been met, and then the county can proceed to a detailed design and go out to tender. Councillor Kitchus?
This question's for the mayor. Is it true that the county doesn't do the heritage part of the bridges, but the local municipality is required to do the heritage part of the bridge?
I'm not sure it's a question for me, but I can speak about what I know about the process. For every project, this is a 100% county project, so every project will have to do what is required from an environmental assessment, which could include a heritage assessment. So the county would bring in consultants and experts in that area to do what it has to do for every structure or every project that is undertaken. Since there's no component of this that is township based, that requirement from the point of view of the county is done by the county project. If you're talking about heritage committee, the county doesn't have a heritage committee, but the township has a Heritage Centre Wellington, which would be asked from time to time to comment on township-based projects. But this is a county project. Councillor Kitchus?
I was on council at this time, and I don't recall any heritage aspect of this bridge being brought forward to this council chambers, and there was information that the county had decided that it needed repair, and then they had to take through the procedures, but I don't recall any, since they don't have any heritage part of it, I don't recall us doing anything about that.
Well, there's nothing the town had to do, but if you recall back, we had two projects on the go that we pulled together because it made sense to do some of this work together along with the Victoria Street pedestrian bridge. So at those two public open houses, we had display boards, and we had information on both the county's bridge as well as Victoria Street pedestrian bridge, and there was widespread involvement by the public to those two bridges and the concepts that they had at the meeting, and everybody in the community was invited to those meetings. They went through a pretty substantial consultation. And I know I was at the meetings. There was a lot of members from the public at those two meetings. So that's where it would touch the town. We haven't been asked to make any decisions because it's not a town asset.
Thank you, Mayor Linton. I have a little something I want to read out. Councillor McElwain, if we are honest about the bridge issue, it is now too late to request a change. The public was provided with several opportunities in 2015, 2016, and 2017 to submit their opinion. The Elora BIA at a February 9th, 2016 meeting with BTE supported a new concrete bridge and requested a ball boat that was subsequently incorporated in the current design. Why are we here today discussing this motion?
Excuse me, this is a council discussion, so we don't need comments from the gallery. It's council discussion right now.
Reviewing the Technical Advisory Committee meeting notes in the EA study appendices, it appears there was little public interest in restoration based on feedback received. It was only through the intervention of the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport that rehabilitation was considered and carried forward for detailed evaluation that determined it was impractical. I'm new to council, so I ask Mayor Kelly, Councillors McElwain, Kittredge, and Van Leeuwen, were you aware of significant citizen interest in saving the bridge in the years before 2019? Did any of you present a motion requesting that it be rehabilitated as opposed to replaced, or that a change in design is considered? Was there interest from the BIA before 2019 to save the bridge or change its proposed plan apart from what I just mentioned? Were there any delegations that came before council asking to keep the bridge or change the currently proposed design? Given your prior experience in dealing with the county on various matters, do you believe the county will be receptive to this last-minute request? If not, what are we trying to achieve here, and why are we misleading the public in thinking to pass this motion will have any impact?
Councillor McElwain?
First of all, to answer one of your questions, I don't remember where it was in the long list. Yes, there was a lot of protesting against the current proposed bridge during the public meetings, and as I said in my presentation, there were lineups of people protesting the whole thing, including myself, and to be honest, we knew there was another public meeting. We thought there was, at least I thought, that county was going to come back with some proposed changes, but that never happened, and it's going to happen, I guess, in June. That's a long 3-year gap in there, of course, and so it did kind of fall out of the limelight during that period. But it certainly in 2015, 2016, for those first two meetings, it was a huge amount of the people in attendance who were very adamantly opposed to the bridge, the cement slab bridge. As far as, do I have any belief that county is going to change anything? I think I just said in my presentation to you, I'm not naive enough to think that this motion is going to change a damn thing at county, to be honest. But if council endorses this motion and takes it forward to county, at least they may rethink it a little bit at County Roads Department. It's very possible. I still don't know where the 14.5 million comes from. I mean, that number just kind of appeared out of the blue this year after some people started saying that we wanted a rehabilitation. But we have a situation where county has proposed their county standard bridge, and that's it, right? I mean, that's the motion, that's the proposal we got from county, and there was no agreement to it. And so what the citizens have said and asked for in their petition is prefer rehabilitation of the existing bridge because it is iconic and it is part of the draw that is Elora. But if that is absolutely too expensive, then at least look at an alternative, not a cement slab. I mean, what they're proposing is the same thing you're going to find out in County Road 7. It's a cement slab bridge. And they're going to put a couple of columns on it. It'll look like a gated community. All they need is a lighthouse or a gatehouse and a gate to raise up and down. I mean, it is just not a very attractive entrance to Elora, and we rely upon visitors. So will county take that into consider? I doubt it. I mean, they live in Guelph, they eat in Guelph, they pay taxes in Guelph. They don't live here. So I don't know if they'll pay any attention or not, but they certainly won't if we don't say anything.
Do you want me to respond to that? Because you did ask a few of us questions. Yeah, sure. Councillor McCray.
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. Regarding the lineups of people opposed to this, going through the various documents, I came across this one comment that was made by someone who actually attended it, a citizen. And I quote, "It was disappointing to see the lack of public interest on this subject, given the artistic and creative environment of this village." So what I also read in going through is that there was a total of 48 respondents to one of these public meetings. So certainly weren't long lineups according to what I'm finding in the appendices when I go through looking at specific information.
I didn't submit a comment, but I was certainly there arguing with the engineer and the VTEI representative for the evening. So I imagine a lot of people that were standing in lineup didn't submit their comments either. They made them in person instead.
Do you want, because Councillor McCray asked a few of us who were there, do you want to respond to that, Councillor Kittredge, or do you want me to go, or what? I'd like to say something. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Kittredge.
My concern with this is from the very get-go, I talked to Councillor Waters when he was on County Councillor, and he told me that only 2 people came to the county meeting on the bridge when it first came. And we had a discussion about that, and he said, well, it's just kind of like the process. You announce the meeting, and 30 days later, meeting happens, and that's the way it is. And that process is flawed. We do that same process, but it's a minimal. It's what's required by the standards by Ontario. And part of the issue here is, so then later as we move along, it's going to happen. So then people's awareness comes known, and social media, I'm not on social media, so I don't, but I know that it can become very explosive. And so then people are all of a sudden aware because they get their news not from the newspaper that the ad was put in, but from social media. The county didn't use social media. So that's one of my major concerns in what you say about public. And then going to these public, there was a lot of discussion. Taking one comment out of context and saying that this is instructive of how people felt is not indicative of actually how the discussions were. There was discussions. I had written a letter to the newspaper about this whole process and how it wasn't really engaged as it was, and that got and then the second meeting we had, they did more round tables, there was more discussion, but it was mainly about Victoria Street pedestrian bridge. That was the main focus, because that was our responsibility, not the county's. And the environmental was strictly about the environment. It had no historical aspect to it in the county. So this is why this part of it is being brought up now. That's just generally. In terms of the economics of it, it is a little disconcerting that we got figures that there was a certain amount that it was going to cost, and we said, well, it's the county, they're paying for it, so whatever. And then when people become concerned, it explodes. Like, I mean, you're talking that's more than twice, well, more than 120% more, whereas the other one is not 120%. So how does that work? So there's this doubt that happens because maybe people don't know the process. So that's sort of what starts this kind of social conversation that people are engaged in. So that whole process, I'm just talking specifically about the heritage part of it, because I don't recall a lot being said about that, and a lot that the county was, and it certainly wasn't brought to us when it was told. We did have to approve some documents, and so that's just generally my experience. So this is that process. I do feel that there could have been much. The initial meeting where they decide about it only had 2 people. That's frightening on an issue like this.
And it's also not accurate. So there weren't 2 people there. There was significant consultation. That's one of the reasons why we pulled it in with the Victoria Street pedestrian bridge, so that we could look at both bridges that are going to be in close proximity to make sure that we had more attention there. The fact that the Victoria Street pedestrian bridge got more attention, that's not our fault. I mean, the presentation was made, the discussion was made. So I haven't said too much. I know Councillor McCray asked a couple questions, so I wouldn't mind making a couple points, because I was here for the initial discussion. So, I mean, I grew up in Elora. I'd love to be nostalgic about the Badley Bridge. I biked over it, I walked over it, I ran over it as a kid. But at the end of the day, as you get more detailed costs, all councillors know it starts off with one price, but as you do more detailed assessment, that price goes up. And the fact that it would be approximately double the 7.25, even if it was the same amount to rehab an existing bridge, we have to be cognizant as members of council of using tax dollars. This is not development charges. This is coming from taxpayers across the county that we're asking to spend extra in one town in the County of Wellington. And remember, we still have 13 closed bridges in Centre Wellington, and we have 11 at risk. So when we're talking about tax dollars and using tax dollars wisely, that has to come into play. It has to be one of our primary concerns. This project has been in the works since 2015, as was mentioned. And on page 5 of the Badley Bridge Public Information Session that was held on December 3rd, 2015, they had really big displays that demonstrated the structural concerns and the advanced state of deterioration in the bridge. The most important thing about this bridge, obviously it has to look good at the end of the day, but it's got to be safe. Right now, it's load restricted. There was rehab that took place in 1975, 95, 97, 2010, 2015. 2015 repairs were not fully completed due to the magnitude of the capital cost to complete. Emergency repairs were completed in May of June 2015 when the sidewalks fell in. We're talking about an old steel structure. 2015, the MMM group completed a structural evaluation that revealed several members are theoretically overstressed and many members are deteriorating. Structural elements of the bridge. Again, process started 2015. We're right at the tail end of that now. June 2015, a fulsome environmental assessment was initiated by the county to define a bridge management plan. 2015 in August, notice of study commencement. First public information center in 2015, December. October 2016, the second public information center. January 2017, environmental assessment study design reports is filed. Reviewed 16 proposed solutions, shortlisted 5 for detailed analysis. The shortlisted alternatives included the rehabilitation of the existing bridge as well as a truss bridge alternatives. February 2017, notice of study completion is issued to the public. August 2017, MOECC decision letter part 2 order is received. And then there's a public meeting in the spring of 2019. As far as the heritage side of things, the county completed a detailed cultural heritage assessment of the bridge and their environment surrounding the bridge as part of their EA. I know the 1953 bridge has some heritage value. It does not meet the definition of significance that would recommend designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. And the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport have been significantly involved in the review of the decision-making process and all cultural heritage assessments and guided the context-sensitive design of the new bridge and recently provided their approval of the supplemental cultural heritage evaluation report that supports the bridge replacement option. Also, this is 100% a county project. It's not like the Fergus Library where we still had a component. There's no township component. County staff, county council have carefully considered both rehabilitation and replacement, and after significant community consultation, evaluation of 16 alternatives, over 50 factors, including safety and cost, the decision to replace the Badley Bridge was made. Marty Van Vliet from the Elora BAA was given the opportunity to present his case and the thoughts of the BAA to both the County Road Standing Committee and then to the full County Council meeting. There wasn't support at a county council to consider their project. And at the end of the day, I know that's not the feeling sometimes, but this is a good news story. The Badley Bridge was designed to showcase the charm of downtown Elora. It's not just going to be a cement slab. Wider sidewalks, 2 new bike lanes. Have you ever tried to ride a bike across there in the middle of a Sunday when there's tourists around? It's not safe. Expanded observation decks overlooking the Grand River. Nothing like a typical bridge that you see that the county builds out in their rural areas. Enhanced lighting across the bridge, wider traffic lanes, new limestone gateway piers. New historic plaque and plants that include a commemorative feature paying homage to the bridge's current metal structure. So since the past 4 years have gone, the county has now cleared all environmental requirements for the new bridge replacement. And once the final public meeting in June outlining the construction schedule is held, all conditions of the Minister of Environment Conservation Park will have been met. The county, at its sole discretion, can proceed then to construction. That's my thoughts. Councillor McRae?
Thank you, Mayor Linton. After reviewing the technical reports, I reached out to County Engineer Don Kudo to confirm my assumptions based on what I had read. I want to read to you his email. Ian, to answer your question about the imposed condition of cycle lanes, the structural condition of the bridge and rehabilitation option, I've included some relevant sections from the Supplemental Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report that we were required to complete and post on the project webpage. Please see below some sections from pages 38, 39, and 40. I quote, this is one of them. The end result of the extensive rehabilitation works that are needed to meet current uses and additional requirements for the accommodation of cyclists, a requirement of the MOECC approval, would be a major loss of heritage materials. This has significant long-term adverse effects. Another section, and I quote, however, because of the extent and nature of the deterioration of the Badley Bridge structural components, The extensive repairs that are needed will result in a significant loss of historic materials and a change in the dimensions of the bridge to increase its traffic capacity and to add accommodation for cyclists. Considering these principles, rehabilitation of the bridge is not recommended. Another section, and I quote, "In the case of the Badley Bridge, the poor condition of the bridge and the requirement to accommodate cyclists precludes retaining the bridge." Another quote, "From a best practices and heritage conservation perspective, extensive replacement of components and the addition of new reinforcing and features such as an increased width to accommodate cyclists will result in an extensively altered heritage resource with a significant loss of heritage integrity and value. Based on this analysis of the impact of necessary rehabilitation work, it is recommended that a replacement with a new bridge be undertaken." So this is just what he confirmed, what I had read when going through the report. I also looked at the photos, and quite frankly, I was rather shocked at the level of deterioration in some of the main structural members. I mean, if we consider the Genoa Bridge collapse and what we're seeing down there with that steel bridge, there's some significant challenges there. And for us to think that we can replace those key members, plus remove all of the other material to get to them, by the time we're finished, we don't have much of the existing bridge left. Plus, with the ministry order that we consider cycle lanes, we have to widen it. So we're no longer talking about replacing, or rather restoring that bridge. It's a different bridge.
Councillor Van Leeuwen?
Thank you. I think it's difficult here because some of what's happening here is we're being asked to, we're not being asked to approve or not approve a bridge style. And council's not sitting here saying, well, are we going to approve this style or that style? I really strongly feel like what we're looking at before us is, do we want to send a letter saying, we don't like your decision? When that is kind of, all those decisions have sailed. The county's been working with the province. We've seen, there's been, I've seen some letters go up to the province in regards from members of the community, and the provinces and county have dealt with them. This today is what we're voting on. I want to keep perspective is not, is this the bridge we're going to build? We're not making that decision. Are we telling the county we're not happy with their decision? So I want to keep that perspective for sure.
Councillor Dunsmore?
I agree with Councillor Van Leeuwen. Diane Valentine and Mary Lloyd and Steve O'Neill are the people that we can express our concerns over here. For this council to be commenting to the county council on whether or not they did their due diligence and all the work that they put into it, we could expect that kind of criticism to come back this way when we start doing the number of bridges that we have to do. So we have to put our faith in the county council that they did their work, and we can express our concerns to them as councillors and leave it at that.
Councillor McWayne?
Thanks, Kelly. Just to go back to Ian's comments. There is no question that there is problems with the bridge. I mean, that's why we're having this discussion at all, obviously. Nobody wants to spend 7.5 or 14.5 or 75 as far as that goes if the bridge doesn't require it. Of course it requires it. That's a given already. If it's rehabilitated, I can be corrected here, but I believe that the ministry order does not require a bicycle lane to be added to a rehabilitated bridge. It needs to be added to a new bridge. And given the fact that on both sides of the bridge, you basically have to get off and walk with your bicycle anyhow, because you can't walk, or certainly can't ride a bike around the corner of Mill Street and Metcalfe Street on a busy day. So a bicycle lane is nice, but it's not worth being the decision criteria for this bridge. But on, the other part of what I have talked about is that rehabilitation is one option. Replacement is an option, but it can be something that has a little bit more character than a cement bridge. And that's kind of what the citizens of the people who live in Elora, the people who rely on visitors to Elora for their livelihood, they don't want to lose this iconic gateway that has become, the Valley Bridge has become. And as I said, photos of the Valley Bridge are kind of included in every picture of Elora almost. And the number of artists' rendering of the Valley Ridge are innumerable. So it's an iconic gateway that has, that draws people to Elora. Putting in another bridge that looks like a cement bridge anywhere is not going to do the same thing.
Anything else? Okay. Councilor McRae?
I can't resist. The challenge for me is I represent Ward 1. We have 12 bridges, 8 of which have been closed for years and will continue to remain closed until such time as we have sufficient funds. The other 3 bridges are on reduced load restrictions, which means their usefulness is not to their full potential. The challenge for me is, if there is really a $7 million difference between restoration and replacement, that $7 million represents several new bridges for rural residents who've been patiently waiting for their bridges. So that's part of the issue I'm facing.
If I may.
Councilor McQueen?
We're talking 2 different budgets, number one, and the other big word that you had in there is if. As I said earlier, where did the 14.5 million come from? Nobody knows, or nobody has been able to explain it to anybody at this point.
I think when you look at as far as the number goes, when you look at the assessment, they didn't obviously go into a lot of detail because it was pretty clearly on that the deficiencies in the bridge made this option a more costly option. And when you're talking about rehabilitation, you're probably getting 15 to 20 years out of rehabilitation, then you're going to have to do something in addition to that anyway. I mean, a steel bridge is a steel bridge. You're not going to change the rusted steel. So, and when you talk about cement bridges, I mean, it can't be an issue with the material, because that's how they build safe, strong bridges that last 100 years, is out of cement. So I think everybody is concerned that that the county builds a bridge that works for downtown Elora, and we haven't yet seen that detailed design. And I think once you see the detailed design, a lot of the majority of people, citizens who live in Fergus and Elora, are going to think it's money and tax dollars well spent. Anything else? Okay, we had a mover seconder so long ago. Call the motion, call the question on the motion. Everybody in favor of this motion? Opposed? And that's defeated. Move to 16.1, confirmatory bylaw. Bylaw to confirm the actions of council. Recommendation is that the bylaw 2019-29 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held May 27, 2019 be introduced the first, second, and third time, passed in open council. Mover for that recommendation, Councillor Dunsmore, second by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And that's carried. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Kittredge, second by Councillor Van Leeuwen. All in favor? And we adjourn. Thanks everybody for coming up.